Bringing people and communities together on seclosounds.org.
Your listening station.
This week's show is a special on Ottawa. Find out where it is and what you can see and do when you get there. That's coming up on the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Hello and welcome to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. My guest this week is Jantine Van Kregten. She's the Director of Communications at Ottawa Tourism. I hope I got her name right, but as you know, if you're a regular listener, I have trouble with most words. At the end of the show, there will be travel news just as normal, but for most of the show, it will be the conversation I have with Jantine. It was recorded over Skype, so every now and then it goes a little bit scratchy. The audio goes a little bit scratchy, but don't worry about it. It doesn't happen that often. In fact, I was quite impressed with the quality. I can remember using Skype when I started in the travel industry in 2004, and making a call over to America was always a hit and miss affair, but this one was pretty good. You may have heard of Ottawa, but you might not be too sure where it is. Well, the first thing Jantine's going to tell us is where we can find Ottawa.
Ottawa is in Canada. We're actually the capital city of Canada. We're in the eastern part of the country. If you're familiar with the largest city in Canada, Toronto, we're about 4.5 hours drive northeast of Toronto, and we're less than 2 hours drive west of Montreal, so sort of between those two larger cities. We're a 7-hour flight from London.
Oh, 7 hours, that's not too bad then.
No, exactly. And it's even faster going back because you have the tailwind.
Okay. Does Ottawa actually mean anything, or is it just a made-up word?
No, it's actually, it comes from the Algonquin word to trade. And our area, this land area, has always been a place of trading with Aboriginal people. We're at the confluence of 3 rivers, the Ottawa River, the Gatineau River, and the Rideau River. So this has been a traditional trading spot for Aboriginal people for centuries.
Mm-hmm. You said it's the capital of Canada, but how does it compare in size with UK cities?
We're not the largest in Canada anyways, but we are about 1.2 million people in the region around Ottawa. That makes us the 4th largest city in Canada. The city of Ottawa proper is about 890,000. So, but being the capital of the country, we have a lot of amenities that are more apt to be seen in much larger centres, but we're around 1 million people.
Ottawa's a bilingual city. Doesn't that get confusing?
Not necessarily. I mean, you do see some repetition when you hear public announcements and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But we look at it as a great way to practice your French. If you've got some maybe high school French that you've been meaning to brush off, it's not intimidating. If you go to our museums, for instance, you'll see all the information and all the programming presented in both English and French. So if you're feeling adventurous, you can read the French first. But if you miss something, if you don't understand something, then it's always there in English as well.
I'll struggle with both, but I'm sure I'll be okay with the English. You think about Canada, you think of snow and cold, but what is the weather like in Ottawa?
Well, we really do have 4 distinct seasons, and there's no sugarcoating it. We do get cold in the winter, and in fact, this past winter has been exceptionally cold and frosty, which is great for winter sports enthusiasts. So the people who were snowshoeing or ice skating on the world's largest ice skating rink, the Rideau Canal in downtown Ottawa, which is 4.8 miles long. They set a record for the most days open, consecutive days open. They were open 59 days where you could skate on the canal. But that's the winter. We definitely have a gorgeous spring where the tulips bloom. We're known for our tulips. That's one of our big festivals each May. We have 1 million different tulips that bloom throughout the city in May. Summer is the time when it gets hot and humid and you're outside, you're golfing, you're paddle sports are very popular. Biking, cycling is very popular as well. And then the fall time is one of my favorite times of year because of the gorgeous colors that we get. The reds, the oranges, the yellows in the trees each autumn.
Have you ever been over here when it snows?
Yes, in fact, I have. I was just in the UK last year. My husband turned 50, and we did a trip. We went up to Scotland, actually, from London up to Scotland, and we had some very nice weather.
Scotland's okay with snow, but in London we can't handle it. Everything grounds to a
Yes.
halt, a couple of centimetres, and that's it.
It's
People are panic
right,
buying.
and we always make a joke here, like, what do you call a snowstorm with 5 inches of snow? And we call it Tuesday. It happens.
It'd be a national emergency here. Think of Canadians being really friendly people. Is Ottawa a safe city to visit?
It is definitely very safe and very friendly. We get comments on that all the time. It's a great place if you're looking for directions or someone to take a photo of you. Most people on the street will stop and help. I mean, like any large city, you have to keep your wits about you and be aware of your surroundings, but it is definitely a very safe city.
Gary Fitz here, every Monday, 10 o'clock.
Coming up, we've got Eric and Ernie.
Join me here on Seclo Sounds.
In your smile.
It's from 1975. Eric and Ernie were four.
Gary, it's not Eric and Ernie, it's Earl and Ernie, the Cape Brothers, Union Man.
Oh, I see.
Gary Fitz here, every Monday, 10 o'clock.
Earl and Ernie.
You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Travel news this week features a hotel where an investigation has been called for after a holidaymaker has fallen ill. Don't worry, it's not in Ottawa, but you'll find out more about it later. If you're going to get to Ottawa from the UK, direct flight, it's using Air Canada from Heathrow. As we said earlier, that gets you there in about 7 hours. So now we talked about the basics of Ottawa. We're going to move into a bit more specifics now. And the next question I asked Jantine was, which is the best part of the city to book a hotel if you're a first-time visitor to the city?
Yeah, I think the downtown is definitely where most people gravitate to. It has the highest concentration and variety of hotels and accommodation options. For example, we're hosting some of the matches of the FIFA Women's World Cup Canada 2015 this June, and most people I think will stay in downtown Ottawa. They can walk or cycle to the stadium that's hosting the events. There's public transit as well, but most major attractions would be downtown, and we do have a very compact downtown. So again, if you're strolling, you can get there easily, or it's a quick cab ride, or a taxi ride. It's not a 6-day adventure to get across the city.
Is there a slightly cheaper area to stay in for the more budget-conscious traveller, or is downtown pretty cheap and reasonable?
It does vary, and you can get some very good deals downtown. If you do stay more in the outskirts of town, so towards the west, towards the east, or towards the south near the airport, you can get some really good deals. One other tidbit or tip that I would share is we have a lot of suite hotels in Ottawa. So those are very convenient if you're traveling with a family, for instance. A 2-bedroom suite where the kids could have their own room, or if grandma or grandpa is traveling with you, you can parcel people off. You have tons of space. Usually there's a kitchenette, so you can prepare breakfasts or snacks that help keep your costs down. And that's a really affordable way of traveling if you look into the suites.
Yeah, I do like the idea of the suites. When I used to be a travel agent and doing families, it used to be like every hotel in Spain seems to be completely unfamily friendly because they've got to separate everybody out. But suites, that's the way to go. Definitely. Especially if you're a couple and you have a row.
Yeah. Well, I like having the 2 televisions as well. So, if you want to watch sports on one and something else on another, you don't have as many arguments, I find. Yes, that'd be a good idea as well. How do the hotel prices and the cost of living in Ottawa compare to New York and London? We're very economical compared to a lot of major cities. I thought I'd go down the route of comparing prices of things like a pint of beer, for instance. I'm a good beer drinker, and so I'm thinking a normal pint here can range anywhere from $6 to $7 to $8 Canadian, which would be, if I can get my conversion rates correctly, somewhere around 350 or £4. Hotels do vary depending on the seasons. You can get great deals in the off season, which for us tends to be this time, March, April. It tends to be lower cost. November, even December can be very reasonable. Our highest peak season, if you will, in terms of hotel rates would tend to be May and June. Again, because the weather's getting nice, but there's still a lot of business travel happening at that time. We have the Tulip Festival that I mentioned earlier that's very popular in May. And then September and October are also busy with conferences and with the fall colors, and that attracts a lot of people. July and August, which is when most leisure travelers take their holidays, is actually quite reasonable. You can get some really good rates in Ottawa.
Okay, I'll have to make sure I go that time then. Always like a bargain.
Yeah.
You already said that it's easy to walk around downtown, but as on a whole, how easy is it to get around the city? Is it easy to find your way?
It is very easy to get around. Again, we're very walkable, and there's lots of recreational pathways. So if you're on vacation and strolling and not, your time is your own, it's very beautiful to go along the waterways. You can rent a bike and cycle along the Ottawa River or the Rideau Canal. In Ottawa, we tend to give directions according to Parliament Hill, which being the capital, Parliament Hill is where our federal government meets. So we've got the House of Commons and the Senate based on the Westminster system. So everybody gives directions according to Parliament Hill. It's so many blocks south of Parliament Hill, or it's a 10-minute drive east of Parliament Hill. So once you know where Parliament is, that's a good reference point for everyone. And more or less, we have a grid system. So, north and south and east and west. In some of the older areas of town, it's not a perfect grid system, so there are some exceptions. And the other quirky thing about Ottawa, we have a strange habit. Some of our streets change names for no apparent reason. So we're on a perfectly good street that may be called Wellington Street, and then as you cross the Rideau Canal, it turns into Rideau Street. And there's no real rhyme or reason for it at this time. There are historic reasons, of course, why. But it makes, it keeps you on your toes.
Oh, good. Nothing like keeping you on your toes when you're lost.
Exactly. But again, we come back to the friendly people. It's always easy to stop and ask for directions.
Yeah.
This is Seclo Sounds, and you can listen to us by clicking Listen Live on our homepage at seclosounds.org for a choice of players. Via TuneIn Radio at www.tunein.com, search for Seclo Sounds and listen online, or download the TuneIn app. You can download the Seclo Sounds iPhone app from the iTunes App Store, and you can listen to us on demand at our replay page.
You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. If you haven't decided where you're travelling to this year, and I guess that after listening to Jantine speaking about Ottawa, that could be high up on your list, put a post on facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show asking for more information about a destination that's of interest to you, and I'll either get a guest on to talk about it or point you in the direction of a recording where that destination was featured in the past. Even if you just got a simple question about where's the best place to eat a burrito in Mexico, let me know and I'll get the answer to you. facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. I'm still speaking to Jantine about Ottawa. We've talked about if the city's safe, how you can get there from the UK, or the best part of the city to stay if you're a visitor. But now we're going to move on to what the main attractions of the city are.
I think the big three would be Parliament Hill. Again, they offer free tours of our Parliament buildings. The Rideau Canal, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So this is a canal that was built by a British man, Lieutenant Colonel John By, between not him alone. There were thousands of laborers, of course, that helped with the task. It stretches 202 kilometers down to Kingston and Lake Ontario, so the Great Lakes system. And it was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2007. And nowadays you can, during the winter, you can skate along the Rideau Canal. In the summer, you can boat, if you rent a houseboat, let's say, and come through the locks system in Ottawa. You can also rent a bike and cycle along the recreational pathways on either side. And you can see the locks being operated the way they operated in 1832 when it opened. So that's why it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, because the locks are still in the same condition as when they were built. So it's a real educational